Have you ever walked away from a conversation feeling strangely empty, like your energy had been drained, even though nothing particularly dramatic happened? Maybe the person smiled, nodded, said all the right things, but something in their tone, their eyes, or their words didn't feel real. It's subtle, the way fake people disguise manipulation as kindness. They praise you when others are watching. They agree with you when it benefits them. They talk about loyalty while practicing convenience. And in that contradiction, something inside you starts to feel unsettled. Because deep down, your intuition knows truth has a certain energy, and so does deceit. You can sense it in silence. You can feel it between words. It's the quiet discomfort that arises when someone's intention doesn't match their speech. Stoics understood this centuries ago. They didn't use the modern word fake, but they spoke often about masks, about how people wear virtues they do not live. Seneca once said, "The man who pretends to be good is not good." It's simple but devastatingly true. In our time, people rarely wear masks of bronze or paint. They wear masks of language, 9 words here, a few clever phrases there, repeated until others start to believe them. They craft sentences not to express truth, but to perform it, and if you're not careful, you'll find yourself trusting tone instead of action. You'll listen to compliments instead of watching consistency. You'll take their phrases as proof of character when they're only camouflage. But eventually their mask slips, and when it does, it's not because they said something cruel. It's because their rehearsed kindness loses rhythm. Their eyes stop matching their words. Their timing breaks. They reveal who they really are through the same phrases they once used to hide. Fake people don't always intend to harm. Sometimes they are simply terrified of being seen. They build entire personalities out of borrowed emotions, admiration, sympathy, humility, but none of it is grounded in sincerity. They imitate virtue because they fear insignificance, and that's where you must practice awareness. Because, as Marcus Aurelius wrote, you must look within. A man becomes what he gives his attention to. If you give your attention to the wrong voices, to those who use words as performance, your peace becomes their stage. So, the Stoic path is not to fight them, not to expose them publicly, not to seek revenge or proof. It's simply to see clearly. To train your mind to recognize the gap between speech and essence, to notice when someone uses empathy as a tactic, not a truth. You will begin to recognize certain phrases, lines that sound noble but feel hollow. They come from insecurity dressed as kindness, from ego disguised as wisdom, and once you see them, you can't unsee them. This is not a story about judgment. It's a lesson in perception. Because fake people aren't your enemies, they're mirrors that teach you what authenticity looks like by showing you what it isn't. There's power in silence, but even greater power in discernment. When you stop reacting to every pleasant word, you start protecting your energy. When you stop needing validation, you stop falling for flattery. And when you stop assuming everyone's heart is as honest as yours, you stop walking blind. You begin to see life through the Stoic lens, not cynical, but clear. You realize that sincerity doesn't need to announce itself, that truth is quiet but constant, and that the people who speak the loudest about loyalty are often the first to abandon it. In this lesson, we will explore 9 phrases, 9 masks of speech that reveal more than they hide. Each one sounds harmless, sometimes even kind, but beneath each is a clue, a small fracture in authenticity. As you learn to listen differently, you'll stop hearing just words. You'll start hearing motives, and in that awareness, your peace returns, because no one can manipulate a mind that sees clearly. So take a breath. Let's walk this quietly. Not to accuse, not to hate, but to understand. Because once you recognize what is false, you can finally stand firmly in what is real. And that's the first mark of wisdom, not knowing who is fake, but knowing you will not be fooled by them anymore. The Stoics believed that a man's character is revealed not by what he says, but by what he repeats. Words, they taught, are habits of thought made audible. And if those words are empty, then the thoughts behind them are hollow too. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "Don't listen to what they say, look at what they do." It's a truth so simple, yet so often ignored. Because people are easily swayed by language, especially words that sound wise, kind, or humble. But Stoicism teaches that wisdom is not in sounding good, but in being good. Fake people often speak in patterns. They've learned the phrases that earn trust. They know how to mirror your emotions, how to sound understanding without truly understanding. They mimic empathy the way an actor mimics pain, precise, convincing, but ultimately unreal. And so, the Stoic learns to listen differently, not for beauty in speech, but for alignment. Does the person's tone match their intention? Do their actions confirm their words? Do they speak of peace, but live in conflict? Speak of humility, but demand attention? Speak of loyalty, but change with the crowd? This is where your awareness becomes your shield. You begin to see that language is not neutral. It's a window into someone's values. When someone constantly says, "I'm not like everyone else," they reveal a hidden pride. When they say, "I don't care what people think," they often crave approval more than anyone. When they say, "Trust me," they've likely already sensed your doubt. A Stoic mind observes these patterns without judgment, just clarity, because clarity itself is protection. Epictetus said, "Appearances are of four kinds. Things are either what they appear to be, or they neither are nor appear to be, or they are and do not appear to be, or they appear to be and are not." Fake people live in that last category. They appear to be something they are not. And recognizing that is the beginning of freedom. Freedom from disappointment, freedom from false bonds, freedom from emotional fatigue. Because once you stop mistaking charm for character, you stop being deceived by performance. You start to notice that genuine people speak less, but their silence carries weight. They don't need to advertise goodness, they practice it. They don't say, "I'm loyal," they simply remain. They don't say, "I'm honest," they live transparently. The Stoics lived by a principle called logos, the alignment between reason, word, and deed. It's the harmony between what you think, what you say, and what you do. A person whose logos is broken can never be at peace because they live in constant performance. They say one thing and feel another. They promise discipline but indulge in chaos. They preach peace while carrying resentment. And that's the tragedy of the fake, not that they deceive others, but that they cannot stop deceiving themselves. They speak words of virtue, hoping they might someday become real. But without practice, words remain air, fleeting, meaningless, and hollow. To the Stoic, authenticity is not about being loud, expressive, or even liked. It's about consistency. If your actions remain true even when no one is watching, you are already living philosophy. You are already walking the path the ancients spoke of. But this awareness also carries a warning. When you start to see through people's words, don't let cynicism take root. The goal is not to distrust everyone, it's to understand everyone. You cannot build wisdom through suspicion, you build it through perception. See clearly, but stay kind. Recognize falseness, but remain calm. Because Stoicism teaches that your peace does not depend on others being genuine. It depends on you staying grounded in truth. So when someone says, "I'd never lie to you," don't rush to believe or disbelieve, simply observe. Time will tell you everything their tongue tries to hide. And when it does, you won't need confrontation. Your stillness will speak louder than accusation. This is the essence of Stoic strength, not exposing others, but mastering yourself. You learn that integrity doesn't need to prove anything, it just endures. And when you live that way, the fake begins to expose themselves naturally. Their contradictions multiply, their borrowed wisdom begins to crack, their false calm gives way to restlessness. Because truth has one rhythm, steady, quiet, enduring. Deceit has many, and it can never stay in tune. The Stoic doesn't chase masks to unmask them. He simply remains true, and in his steadiness, every false person reveals their own instability. That is the Stoic truth. You don't need to call them out. You only need to see clearly, and they undo themselves. There comes a moment in life when you begin to see through people, not with anger, not with superiority, but with quiet clarity. You start to notice the pauses that don't feel natural, the exaggerated kindness that doesn't flow. The way someone's words always seem designed to get something from you, and at first it hurts, because you realize how much of your trust was built on illusion. How much of your energy went into keeping fragile bonds alive. You remember the times you gave loyalty to those who only gave you convenience. You recall moments when you defended people who would never have defended you. That realization cuts deep. You begin to ask yourself, how could I not see it sooner? How did I mistake flattery for friendship? But Stoicism teaches that there's no wisdom in regret, only in awareness. You couldn't see then what you see now, and that is not failure, it is growth. Still, the mind wrestles with this newfound sight. You don't want to become cold. You don't want to lose faith in people. You simply want to stop bleeding for those who only take. This is the inner conflict, the tug-of war between your compassion and your clarity, between your heart that wants to believe and your reason that has learned to see. Seneca wrote, "Associate with those who will make a better man of you. Welcome those whom you yourself can improve." He didn't say avoid everyone or trust no one. He said, choose, because choice is where your power lies. But many people confuse kindness with access. They believe that to be good means to be available, that to be wise means to stay quiet when disrespected, that to be forgiving means to stay where the energy keeps wounding you. And yet, Stoicism reminds you, you are not here to be endlessly drained. You are here to live in accordance with reason and virtue, and reason tells you this: peace and chaos cannot coexist. So you begin the quiet process of distance. You stop oversharing. You stop explaining your worth. You stop performing availability for those who never value it. You don't announce it. You just withdraw into calm, and in that calm, something shifts. The fake begin to sense that they can no longer manipulate your empathy. They test you with small provocations, delayed responses, guilt, trips, sudden coldness, and you do nothing. You don't chase, you don't plead, you simply observe the unraveling of what was never real. This is not pride, it is protection. Because Stoicism teaches you to value your energy as much as your virtue. Your peace is sacred ground. Not everyone deserves to stand on it. But even as you distance yourself, the mind still aches. You remember the good moments, the laughter, the shared dreams, and you question if it was all fake. Maybe not all of it, maybe just enough to keep you hopeful, and that's what makes it dangerous. The Stoics would tell you every illusion carries a fragment of truth. The fake imitate goodness because goodness still holds power. They mimic care because they once felt its absence. They pretend to be loyal because they know loyalty is noble. But imitation without inner transformation is temporary. Epictetus said, "It is not things themselves that disturb us, but our judgments about them. So the goal is not to hate those who wear masks, but to stop mistaking masks for faces. Once you see this clearly, something incredible happens. You stop fighting people and start refining your perception. You realize that every disappointment was simply a teacher, guiding you closer to truth, closer to detachment. You begin to say less, you begin to expect less, and strangely, you begin to feel more peace. Because when you stop clinging to appearances, you start connecting with reality. You stop needing validation from false approval. You stop needing to be understood by those committed to misunderstanding you. In time, you notice that silence no longer feels lonely. It feels clean. Your solitude stops being a void and becomes a sanctuary. You start to rebuild trust, not in people, but in your discernment. You realize that awareness is not isolation, it's liberation. And this is where the Stoic finds balance between heart and reason, compassion and clarity. You learn to forgive without returning. You learn to care without attaching. You learn to walk away without anger. Because peace isn't built by avoiding pain, it's built by walking through it with open eyes. So when you see the fakeness in others, let it refine you, not harden you. Let it make you wiser, not colder. Let it teach you what kind of person you refuse to become. For that is the ultimate Stoic victory, to see falseness clearly, yet remain true within yourself. There comes a day, quiet, uneventful, almost ordinary, when something inside you changes. You don't plan it, you don't force it, it just happens. You stop explaining yourself to people who never listened. You stop trying to prove your goodness to those who benefit from misunderstanding you. You stop seeking honesty from those whose words are made of smoke. That day is your turning point, because the moment you let go of needing to be understood, you become free. You realize that wisdom isn't loud, it's still. That strength isn't shown through confrontation, it's revealed through detachment. And that the most powerful response to falseness is silence. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "When another blames you or hates you, or people voice similar criticisms, go to their souls, penetrate inside, and see what sort of people they are. You will realize that there is no need to be racked with anxiety, that they should hold any particular opinion about you." Those words are like a mirror for the modern mind, because you finally understand that their words say more about their inner poverty than your worth. Their envy, their manipulation, their subtle lies, they are reflections of an inner chaos that has nothing to do with you. And when you grasp that truth, you stop fighting shadows. You begin to see that not everyone deserves your reaction, your defense, your explanation. The Stoics call this the discipline of perception, the ability to see clearly without distortion. It's not about judging others. It's about freeing yourself from the illusion that everyone deserves your emotional energy. You start to respond differently. When someone pretends to care but only when it's convenient, you don't confront them. You observe, you learn. You let their consistency, or lack of it, reveal their truth. When someone flatters you in public but undermines you in private, you don't fight to expose them. You simply withdraw your energy and let time unmask what words cannot. You begin to understand what the Stoics meant by tranquillitas animi, the tranquility of the soul. It doesn't mean living without pain or deceit around you. It means being unshaken by it, to remain centered, regardless of external noise. You become someone who sees more but reacts less, someone who hears more but speaks less, because you've realized that clarity needs no audience. In your stillness, you start to recognize patterns. Fake people speak with urgency. They rush connection, praise, or favor. Wise people move slowly. They earn trust through quiet consistency. Fake people use charm to hide emptiness. Wise people use silence to reveal depth. And when you stand still long enough, the truth naturally separates itself from illusion. It's not something you force, it's something you allow. That's when detachment becomes your discipline. You no longer chase closure from those who never gave you honesty. You no longer cling to explanations that only lead back to confusion. You learn to let go, not out of apathy, but out of understanding. Epictetus said, "Make the best use of what is in your power, and take the rest as it happens." You finally live this, not as a quote, but as a way of being. You realize that the only thing truly in your control is your inner state, your response, your energy, your peace. And when you start living by that, fake people lose their power over you. Their words become noise. Their manipulation becomes transparent. Their approval loses its meaning. You stop asking, "Why are they like this?" and start asking, "Why did I tolerate it for so long?" That's the moment your wisdom matures. You no longer see yourself as a victim of others' deceit, but as a guardian of your own perception. You don't fight for peace anymore, you protect it. You don't chase truth, you embody it. The Stoic path is not about emotional numbness, it's about inner order. To see things as they are, to act with reason, and to move forward without bitterness. And in doing so, you discover that letting go is not a loss, it's an act of power. The old you reacted to every slight. The new you observes in silence. The old you needed validation. The new you only needs alignment. That is the true transformation, when you no longer seek to be seen, but to be clear. Because clarity doesn't need applause. It just needs peace. And when you reach that point, you finally understand. You never lost anyone real by letting go. You only lost the illusion that they ever were. Wisdom means little if it remains only in thought. The Stoics believed philosophy was not meant to be read, it was meant to be lived. So now comes the practice, the quiet, daily application of everything you've learned about people, energy, and peace. You've seen what falseness looks like. You've felt how it drains you, not through grand betrayal, but through small, consistent dishonesty. Now, your task is not to fear fake people, but to train yourself to remain calm, discerning, and grounded in truth. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself each morning, "Today I shall meet people who are meddling, ungrateful, arrogant, deceitful, envious, and unsocial. But I will not be harmed by them." He didn't say, "I will avoid them entirely." He said, "I will not be harmed." That's the Stoic practice, to be surrounded by falseness, yet remain untouched by it. Start your morning with awareness. Before the world reaches for you, reach for your center. Remind yourself, I cannot control how others speak. I can only control how I respond. Repeat that truth until it settles into your bones. You'll notice that most pain from fake people doesn't come from what they say. It comes from your expectation that they'll act as you would. So, you practice detachment from expectation. You give without assuming return. You help without demanding recognition. And you trust slowly, with eyes open, without bitterness. This is emotional discipline, the ability to love without illusion, to care without losing clarity, to forgive without forgetting who someone has shown themselves to be. Each time you notice deceit, you practice restraint. You no longer rush to expose or confront. You simply see and withdraw your energy. Your silence becomes your shield. Seneca once said, "He who does wrong is the wronged one," meaning those who act with deceit harm themselves first. So when you witness manipulation, remember, their actions reflect their weakness, not your worth. You don't need to return the harm. You only need to rise above it. In conversation, train yourself to listen more than you speak. Observe tone, motive, repetition. Fake words sound rehearsed. Truth sounds effortless. The Stoic practice here is perception through patience. You let time reveal people's patterns instead of forcing answers. Every time you want to react, pause, ask, "Is this worth my peace?" If the answer is no, stay silent. Silence doesn't mean weakness. It means self-command. When you feel tempted to over-explain yourself, stop. The wise do not chase understanding. They let their actions and calmness explain everything. In this daily discipline, you begin to see energy differently. You stop trying to win every argument. You stop trying to convince those committed to confusion. You realize that some minds cannot meet you where you stand, and that's okay. Not every connection is meant to last. Some only exist to sharpen your discernment. Every night, before you sleep, reflect who today felt genuine. Who left you drained? Did you act with virtue or with impulse? This nightly reflection, what the Stoics called evening examination, cleanses your mind. You end your day in truth, not in noise. You stop replaying conversations in your head. You stop wishing people were different. Instead, you practice gratitude for what was revealed. Because even deceit is a teacher, it teaches you clarity. With time, your reactions soften. You no longer carry resentment. You carry understanding. You no longer chase justice. You embody integrity. You stop labeling people as good or bad. You start seeing behavior as patterns of awareness, some awake, some asleep. And your role is not to judge, but to remain awake yourself. This is where your practice matures, in how you hold yourself steady amid contradiction. To smile calmly at manipulation, to hear a lie and feel no need to correct it, to walk away without hatred, but with silent dignity. That's Stoic mastery in motion. In time, people will notice the difference in you. They'll sense your calm, your lack of reaction, your quiet presence. Some will respect it, some will fear it, some will try to test it, but you'll remain unmoved, because your peace no longer depends on others' authenticity. It depends on your own. And this is the beauty of daily Stoic practice. You stop fighting people and start mastering yourself. You stop trying to prove who's fake. You simply live in truth so clearly that illusion cannot stand beside you. Your calm becomes your boundary, your silence becomes your defense, your self-control becomes your strength. And every day you live this way, you become harder to deceive, not because you distrust the world, but because you finally trust yourself. At first, learning to see through people feels heavy. You start to notice motives behind smiles, intentions behind compliments, emptiness behind praise, and for a while it can make the world seem darker. But then something shifts. You realize that seeing clearly is not a curse. It is the beginning of peace. You begin to live differently. You no longer rush to belong everywhere. You stop craving validation from noisy rooms. You realize that peace doesn't come from who surrounds you, but from who you are when no one's around. This clarity becomes a quiet power, the kind that doesn't seek attention, the kind that doesn't break under disappointment. Because when you learn to let go of the false, you make room for the true. When you stop chasing illusions, you begin to attract what is real. And the truth is, fake people will always exist. They exist in every generation, in every culture, in every crowd. Marcus Aurelius faced them, Seneca faced them, Epictetus faced them, but they didn't let deceit corrupt their character. They saw through it, but they remained whole. That's the Stoic way, to see clearly without becoming bitter, to understand deeply without losing compassion, to protect your peace without building walls of cynicism, because bitterness is just another chain. It binds you to the same energy you're trying to escape. But wisdom frees you. It allows you to see everything and still choose calm. When someone lies to you, you don't spiral. When someone flatters you, you don't rise too high. When someone criticizes you, you don't crumble. You remain steady, because your worth no longer depends on their perception. Epictetus said, when someone does you wrong, immediately consider what opinion led him to do it. Once you see that, you will pity him instead of being astonished or angry. You begin to understand this truth. Those who act with deceit are not powerful, they are lost. Their dishonesty is not strategy, it's survival. And once you see this, you stop taking things personally. You no longer react, you simply respond with presence. You protect your peace, not through control, but through understanding. And understanding is what gives you the upper hand in life. Because while others spend energy pretending, you spend energy becoming. While they perform truth, you live it. You start to see relationships differently, not as emotional exchanges, but as reflections. Every person shows you something about yourself, your patience, your boundaries, your growth. Even the deceitful ones play their role. They refine your discernment. You stop asking, why did they betray me? And start asking, what did this teach me about trust? You stop asking, why do they act fake? And start asking, what part of me used to tolerate that? This is how wisdom quietly replaces resentment. Because you no longer look backward with pain, you look forward with strength. Seneca wrote, no man can have a peaceful life who thinks too much about lengthening it, or believes that living through many consulships is a great blessing. In the same way, no person can have peace if they keep obsessing over how others treat them. Peace begins the moment you stop expecting truth from those who live comfortably in lies. You live lighter, you walk calmer, you smile quietly, because you've learned something few people ever do, that truth doesn't need to shout. It simply stands unmoved while everything false collapses around it. In this stillness, you find real strength. Not the kind that dominates others, but the kind that no one can take from you. Your energy no longer bends to deception. Your emotions no longer answer manipulation. Your focus no longer breaks under noise. You've become untouchable, not because you've hardened, but because you've awakened. And this is where the story ends, not with victory over others, but with victory over self. Because once you master your perception, no fake word, no false smile, no hidden motive can control your peace. You finally understand peace isn't something the world gives you. It's something you create through truth and protect through silence. So walk with calm eyes, listen with patient heart, and speak only when your words strengthen peace. Let your awareness be quiet, let your boundaries be gentle but firm, and let your spirit remain unshaken, because the wise don't fight illusions, they outgrow them. Peace is not found by avoiding deception, it's found by refusing to be deceived.